Uplift the lives one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. And here's your host, Miss Kim Rodney.
When trouble gets me down, I don't cry.
welcome to good evening, everybody. Welcome to Crises Radio. This is your host, Dr. Rodney Pearson, and we have my co-host,
Christina Eve. Hello, everyone.
Yes, she is. Christina, it just seems like we have just been apart here for so long, right?
Oh, I know. All the stories and the people we have met and connected with is absolutely amazing. I'm loving it.
Oh,
loving this journey.
My goodness. Yes. So we kind of miss being connected on radio, and even in our TV show, we've just kind of been, little things have been coming up and stuff's been happening. But, hey, we are here tonight ready to interview our newest guest. But just before we do that, Christina, I know your family's been kind of sick. How is everybody doing?
Oh my gosh, everyone's amazing. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, and it's like what kind of similar to, the show. I mean, I look at things that happen in life as speed bumps. That you don't park in front of it and you don't park on top of it. You slowly but surely get over it, So everything that comes up, basically the vicissitudes of life in general, we just have to overcome and get over it with faith. Apply faith, and, faith honors God as God honors faith, and you get over it. So if anything, everything that we face develops our character, so I just embrace it. But thank you so much for inquiring. Yeah, but everybody's good. Thank you.
Well, you sound like you're trying to preach a little bit there, using the big words for vicissitudes.
Hey, in that downtime and reading, I've been reading so much. So those words are just, I'm that linguist. They're just flow.
There you go. Beautiful.
I'm ready to preach and teach.
There you go. You sound like it. Well, we have an exciting guest tonight that
yes.
Christina, you brought this guest to us tonight, so I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce her to our audience.
Oh, gosh, I'm just ready to just put the spotlight on her right now, and that doo-doo-doo music and everything, because a little, that confetti. I mean, yes, I have been, I'm just really excited to introduce her tonight, and she actually has a book. I really would like her to share her book as well. So it's a huge thing for her. I just wish her, success. She's an amazing, amazing, beautiful woman, beautiful spirit and heart. Diana, are you on the line?
I am. Yes, I am.
Hello.
There she is. Our guest
there
for
she
tonight,
is.
Diana Pearson. All right.
Hello. Hello.
How are you doing today?
I am blessed. I am, I'm feeling a little fatigued from the day, but you know what? This show has given me some energy, and I'm just so honored to be here with the two of you this evening.
Excellent.
Oh, amen to that. Well, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yes.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our guest.
How did you come to meet Diana? Christina, Christina Eve, how did you come to meet Diana?
Sorry about that. We connected on Facebook. We've connected on Facebook, and we have mutual friends. I happened to see a post and was just like blown away. I was all excited about the books. I reached out to her, and we just connected right away. And I love the fact that's what I was saying. She has such a beautiful spirit, because some people you just naturally feel that with that connection, and
right.
I just want to hug her through the phone. I mean,
I'm
just because you just feel like she just has that genuine. She's just a loving, all around loving person. So it's just a pleasure to have her. So just thanks to Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we became on Facebook.
Okay. Good. Well, now, Diane, I guess we better connect on Facebook too then, huh?
Yes, I think we should.
It's always good to be connected to good people.
Amen.
Amen. It is.
Now, let me just say that Diana, for our audience, Diana is an author. She's a certified life coach. She's a personal development consultant. She's a child advocate, a leadership consultant. She's a trainer. She's an educator. She's a motivational speaker. She cooks
Wow.
fried chicken.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow,
I
she's
do,
all
and I
of
make
that.
some really good greens too.
Wow.
And some
She's
greens,
all that
too.
and a bag
Girl, I
of
can
chips right there,
cook some
man.
greens now.
That's great.
Where's your cape?
That is good. Superwoman,
So
right?
you hear that back, and I'm like, who are you talking about?
And she's humble. See, look at that.
She's humble. That's great. Well, to all of our Elation audience, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. This thing has been kind of lingering on for the past couple of weeks, so if I cough, please forgive me. But Diana is here, as all of our audience knows. We always celebrate survivors, and as you just heard in her little bio, she is definitely a survivor. But she was abused back at 16 years old. Now, I know she's only about 22 now, but, you know, just... Did you like that, Diana? Did you like that?
I loved it. I'm trying to go back.
Yes. Well, she is here tonight to tell us of the horror that she went through. And we want to hear this story. So those of you who are our audience, please call somebody. Tell them to get on Elation Radio and hear this tremendous story that we're about to hear right now. So let's, Christina Eve, let's turn the mic over to Miss Diana N. Patterson, and let's hear this powerful story. Tell us, Diana, about what happened when you first faced your abuser.
Well, my story is very interesting because mine started as a young child, my first love. I was actually 15 years old when I started dating my oldest daughter's father. My other three children are from my marriage, but my oldest daughter was his, and it started off innocent enough. He used to actually wait outside, wait at my bus stop every day when I get off the city bus from school. He'd be sitting at the bus stop on his 10-speed waiting on me, and he did it every day. You know, kind of one of those situations where he kind of wore me down a little bit. I wasn't too interested in him in the beginning, but, you know, he was really nice. He'd have candy some days, teddy bears, and he'd walk me home and, you know, strike up friendly conversation. It all seemed in the beginning, and I didn't really like him much in the beginning, but he grew on me just because of his persistence. I mean, he I guess he had kind of put his eye on the target, never took his eye off it, and it started off sweet enough. And, you know, I hope we have a lot of young listeners tonight, because one of the things that I really talk about, and I talk about it in my book, was when the abuse started, it was very subtle. As a matter of fact, the very first time something happened, I was a peer counselor at a community center. I was 15 at the time, and I went out in the back. There was a big event that weekend at the park. It was a big basketball tournament, and there were going to be guys there from like Beloit. This was in Madison, Wisconsin, and there were going to be guys there from Beloit, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, you know. And so the girls were all hyped up because, you know, it's going to be these cute boys there. So I had a boyfriend, so, you know, I was excited about looking, but I wasn't shopping, you know. So I went to the back to take out some trash. I was the last to close the community center, and I was going to head over to the park to the tournament. And when I got back there, he was back there. And when I came out the door, he cursed at me and asked me what I was doing. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Where you going?" And I told him where I was going, and he got really angry, and he grabbed me and he pushed me down on the ground. Now, that was our first encounter. It seemed innocent enough to some people, but any abuse is abuse, period. And when I fell, I just remember I was on the ground like I couldn't believe, because we've been dating a while, and he had never been violent towards me. So I was looking at him, and I ran to the bus stop. I stopped talking to him for, I think, like 2 to 3 months. I wouldn't take his calls, anything. I stayed away from him But he wore me down and worked his way back in. And each subsequent incident, it was almost as though they elevated. Like each thing that he did, like the next one was just something more. Like I think he grabbed me by my neck and kind of squeezed and choked me a little. And, they seemed small enough, but then eventually a push turned into a slap turned into a punch turned into
my.
And
my Lord.
I stayed with him for about a year and a half. And when I got pregnant with my daughter, I was only 16 when I got pregnant with my first daughter. And how I ended up leaving that relationship. Well, let me just say this too. Quentin was, I didn't mean to say, well, he's in the book, so I can say it. He was very controlling.
Okay.
He didn't, in fact, he had such a strong hold on me in terms of how he controlled me that I would listen to him more than my mother and my father. And he was very jealous, so he didn't like me going anywhere. So if my mom and dad told me that I couldn't go somewhere and Quentin told me he wanted me to meet me somewhere, I would sneak out to go see Quentin. But if Quentin told me I couldn't go somewhere, you better believe I didn't leave that house. And I don't think I realized I was very strong-willed, smart, secure young lady. I was, I had it together. So I was not the person that you would have thought that would have happened to, but it did. And it was really scary when I kind of started to realize the patterns, and I was seeing them. But one of the things, my parents were very, very upset about me dating him. And often they would kind of badmouth them and tell me, they want me to leave him alone. He wasn't this, he wasn't that. But I can honestly tell you, and I see this as a pattern in women that are in abusive relationships, is they tend to defend their abuser. So the more my parents talked bad about him, it's almost as though the more I protected him and ran to him. So how I ended up leaving the relationship was I actually had I was pregnant, and I had it with him. I had it with his abuse, and then on top of that, he started cheating on me and just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm pregnant at this point. I'm 8 months pregnant. I called him on the phone and I told him it was over. No, he called me because I actually had been avoiding him all week. He called me and he said he wanted to talk to me. And I said, you know what? I don't want to talk to you. It's over. He pulls up in front of my parents' house. I go outside. He's like, it's not over until I say it's over, and you can't break up with me. And so we're sitting in the car talking. He pulls off, and we end up about 8 miles from my house. It's dark. I'm pregnant, and he tells me to get out the car. And I'm like, well, I need the bus there because I didn't know I was leaving my house, so I didn't have anything on me. I just so when I wouldn't get out because he wouldn't give me bus fare, he assaulted me, and I fought back, and I was able to get out the car, and I'm screaming, and a kind cab driver pulled over, and he took me home, and I told my parents what happened, and we filed a restraining order. So, yes, it was over at that point, but that is not the last time Quentin beat me. My daughter ended up, my daughter, after the birth of my daughter, she was about 2 weeks old, so this is about another month and a half later. Quentin did not accept the fact that I left him. To him, it was not over until he said it was over. It didn't matter what I said. He said it wasn't over. So I had a very difficult time with him because I would see him in public, and he would, do things or say things, to try to put fear in me. And I got off the bus early. My daughter got sick with meningitis, spinal meningitis. She was about 2 weeks old, almost died. And I went home, and I got off the bus early because there's a lot on my mind that night. Just how much my life had changed in a short year, from being a young, personable, smart student, and now I'm a teenage mom, and, I'm trying to figure out what direction my life is going. My daughter,
Sure.
Okay. I get off the bus, and I'm sitting at the park, and I felt something. I heard like a pop. And what I realized is it was him. He had came up behind me and hit me on the side, and I fell back and hit my head. And I think I was unconscious for a second. Yeah, I was unconscious for a second. And when I came to, he was beating me profusely, like I thought I was being attacked by a lion. It was that bad. And I think a car or something must have gone past, and he took off. And I lived about 3 blocks from the park, and that was the longest walk home I ever had. I was in the worst pain I'd ever had, and this is what I want to say. Some people are going to go, are you kidding me? But when I got in the house, because my parents had asked me so many times to leave him alone, and I hadn't. When I walked in and my parents looked at me, they didn't help me. And I had 2 black eyes. I was a big bruise on my forehead. I was bleeding from my left ear, bleeding from my face, bruises on my face, scratches on my neck, and they didn't do anything. And that was the first time my parents didn't pamper me after he beat me. And when I went to the bathroom, it was so surreal at that moment. Like I had to look at myself, and that was something else that was different. Usually my parents were sitting there washing my wounds, and I wasn't sitting in the mirror looking at what this boy did to me. But it was something about looking in that mirror, cleaning up myself, that empowered me. I knew what I had to do, and I knew I had to make a change. So I called the police myself. I was 16. I called the police. They came. They gave me the DA's number. That was that night, so that next morning I had to get on the bus at 8 o'clock in the morning. My parents wouldn't help me do anything. I had to get on the school bus.
Oh, wow.
The city bus, yeah. I had to go to the DA's office on the city. I was so embarrassed because I was beaten profusely. When I got in the DA's office, I was beat so bad that he was going to charge him with attempted murder.
Wow.
And they ended up dropping the charges because, I was fine. But, at least I lived, I'll say that. But that, I tell people this. That sounds mean what my parents did. But I have to say this. That is that moment that I really woke up. It's almost as though because they backed off, I was able to really look at my situation from an introspective point of view. Like I really looked at not only what he was doing to me, but what I was allowing to happen to myself. And that was a life-changing moment for me. So I stayed in it for a while, but it was something about when he tried to beat me when I was pregnant with my daughter. I knew that this man, I was 8 months pregnant, and he was beating me. And I knew when that happened, this was not somebody I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, because I did not want as my unborn child to abusive relationship and let her grow up thinking that that's normal.
Wow. Diana,
Wow.
that is something else. Oh, my goodness.
Right. Yeah, I went through a lot.
You were, 15, 16, all while this was going on?
Mm-hmm. I sure was, yes.
Oh, my goodness. Now,
No, that's amazing. So let me.
All right, go ahead, Christina. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm just blown away. I'm listening to all of this. So how did you, just for those, because I experienced something similar to being pregnant as well. And that's what we hear so much with these stories, which is incredible stories, is that people end up making a choice. It's ultimately a choice. When, and that's out of survival, when you've had enough, so please continue to tell us, so what did you do at this point? Because you're just like, phew, that's it. You're obviously with survival at this point because you never know where it's going to take. And so what did you do next?
I will say this. I was blessed a lot more than I will say, and my heart goes out to women that are in especially adult relationships and marriages, or where they're living with their abusive spouse. I was blessed to still be young, living at home with my parents. And when I filed charges, they put him in jail for 8 months. He served the sentence. So during that 8 months, the gift that God gave me was just seeing my life through that lens of not having him, of what it was like to live without him, to be free again, to be a normal. I was a teenage mother, so I can't say I was normal, but as normal as I could be as a teenager. And it was such a liberating, freeing moment in my life to really see my life through that new lens of what it felt like to be liberated from that relationship. And I found myself confident. I was starting, just normal. What was weird? Just normal things. Like my friends would call me, and I wouldn't feel like I had to check in with him to go somewhere. It was those little things that really wow, it's normal again, and having that back, by the time he got out, I was so where I was with that. Like there was no way him or any other man was ever going to put me back in that place.
Well, let me ask you this, Diana. Your parents saw the red flags. What was it about him that your parents saw that they were trying to warn you about that you wasn't trying to hear? What were the things that they saw?
There were a couple things. So one of the things I say in my book about the lessons I've learned in life is hurt people hurt people. So for Quentin, he came from a family of abusive men. That's all he knew. So for Quentin, that was normal. That's how men treated their women, period. Okay. My parents, me being young, my parents were strict on me, so I didn't get out enough to hear about the reputation of the men in his family. But my parents, and I didn't know, of course, until later, that they did know. So their first concern was just the reputation of the men in the family, period, and what they felt were his role models. But also just how young I was. My parents were apprehensive about allowing me to date at such a young age, period. But I think, and this is what I say to a lot of parents, don't think that because your child is a straight-A student and they're smart and they're intelligent and they're doing well, that they're going to make good decisions when it comes to relationships, because, those hormones, we can't control those. So although I was a good student, I feel a good girl, I feel like I still made bad decisions when it came to my relationship with him. And my parents trusted me probably more than I had the maturity to make the type of decisions that I needed to make to be safe and to be okay within that relationship. And
okay, hold on just for a minute. Why don't you explain that? You said they trusted you more than you actually had maturity to handle. Explain that.
Right. Well, again, I think because I was going to do the right thing. And that's where a lot of parents, I think, make a mistake. They say, oh, my kids are, my child is good. She doesn't do this. She doesn't do that. She gets awards. She's smart in school. And they think that means that we're going to make the right decision. But there are some things in life that we experience that we don't have the maturity or the emotional strength to deal with. We are not at that point in our life where we can make the type of we can say no when we need to say no, or we can stand firm when we need to stand firm. And I'm just going to say it, it's them hormones, with the young folks, they're not going to, when they get caught up in those feelings, a lot of times they don't even understand what they're feeling. So they're going on raw emotion at that point. They're not making any decisions based on any type of maturity or intellect. They're just all in emotionally. And we all know when you're making emotionally driven decisions, they don't usually work in your best interest.
Right. And most of the time when we're that age, we just think we know it all, and our parents don't have a clue.
And I think parents too, they try, and I get it. They want, they want us to be happy, and a lot of times, like I say this about these young folks with the 10 and 12 with cell phones, like what? I don't understand that. I'm just being honest. And a lot of times it's more for the parents than it is for the child. And I think sometimes
she's preaching now.
I'm just being honest, honey. And listen, it's okay to, and like some people, I don't want to be my child's friend. I do want to be friends with my child, but I want my child to understand who I am first. I'm your mom. I'm the person that's here to protect you, and it's our job to protect them. And we have to, where they don't have that knowledge and that sense and that experience to make those good decisions, it is our job to step up and do that for them. It is our job to protect them, and it doesn't mean smother them. It doesn't mean control them, because there is a difference. But I do think that there's a point where we have to step up and say, you know what, I'm going to have to be a parent, and I'm going to have to stand strong in this one. And if you don't like it, that's too bad, because it is what it is.
Yeah. Wow.
You're always
That's
a parent
amazing.
First before the friend. Always.
Exactly.
Yep.
Excellent.
And I'm the same way as far as that protecting. My daughter's 21, and I'm like that too. You could be married and grown. It's not. I'm still gonna protect you. I'm still gonna be able to. Yeah, exactly. That's that motherly duty. But wow.
And fatherly duty too.
Oh yes, of course. Of course, yes.
Don't leave us
out. They
out.
don't even have to say nothing. They just show up and they have a look on their face, and everything just changes.
Wow. Now, how old is your daughter now, Diana?
Well, my oldest daughter, she's 36, and she is just
36.
amazing. But I have 4 daughters. So they're
4
36,
daughters.
31, 28, and 23.
Okay,
Wow.
okay. Amazing. And now when you look back on that, the time that you went through, that devastating time, how does it affect how you parent these girls? So, now you brought them up, through the hard times. How did that experience affect how you parent these girls?
Well, let me say this. That experience toppled on all the other experiences. I talk a lot about what I went through. My childhood was something else, and I talk about it a lot in my book. So my parenting and the style of parenting that I have and my drive to give my daughters every ounce of everything that I have of me to give to them comes from my relationship or lack thereof with with my mother, and then also the experiences I had in that relationship with Quentin. So there's several dynamics and factors that factor into what type of mother I am to my children. But one of the things that I believe in is reflective parenting. And I think a lot of times when we experience things with our children, it's so important that we go back and remember what things like were for us, what we felt during that time, what were we thinking during that time, what were our thought patterns, what we thought about the people around us, because those things do impact the decisions we make for our own children. And we don't get second chance. When we mess our kids, me working for Child Protective Services, I think takes us on a whole nother level. We don't get another chance at raising our children right. We got to get it right the first time. So I think I'm very cognizant of how much my children need me. And I know the line, because there's a point where, especially as they start to grow up and they start to seek their own identity, we have to be able to let go. And I think a lot of times we want to shape mold our children into our own dreams instead of allowing them to have their own. And my mother never let me speak. She was real big on respect. I didn't have a voice. And I know one of the things that I did, and especially after being in that abusive relationship with Quentin, because he silenced me as well, is I really felt, and I caught myself doing it. I hate to say it. With my first daughter, I didn't let her have a voice as much when she was younger. But as I started to see things in me that I didn't like, and I said, I don't want to parent my children like this. I want my children to have a voice. I want them to be able to say, Mama, this hurt me, or Mommy, you said this to me and it bothered me. And I don't want them to feel threatened by being able to speak up there. And listen now, I tell them, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So don't talk to me any old kind of way, talk to me at the wrong time. But there is going to come a point where we can sit down and talk about things, because I do respect their feelings, and I'm vulnerable with my children. I'm not afraid to say I'm sorry.
That's excellent. That's some good advice.
That is, yes. I love that perspective.
Now, Christina, with your daughter, your 21-year-old daughter, are you finding that that some of those same dynamics go on between you and your daughter?
Well, I could relate as far as how she was saying, like, I was very strict, and a lot of that I isolated. My son, there's a five-year difference between both of them, and unfortunately, both of the fathers were abusive in nature. And so I isolate my children. It was like work, homeschool, and because I was still kind of overcoming and healing. I was fearful. There was a lot of things that I had dealt with up to the point of becoming a parent. And I was a single parent, with both of them. So for me, when those dynamics, I was like that. Like, what am I doing? I don't want to be too strict or too isolating to the point where I'm suffocating them. They are their own people to a certain extent, but I'm here to guide them. I'm a steward, if anything. So, I just prayed about it. I just built literally diving cap, just went into the Bible and thought, I need to be that Proverb 31 woman in order to be that mother for them, if that makes sense. That's how I approached it as far as, being that mother that they needed. So I just went into the Bible and used biblical principles. And then I just, changed my ways interpersonally to be a better mother for
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I'm going to go from the daddy side of things. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, when I had to deal with my daughters, I try to treat my daughters with love and respect, because I'm the type that's, my daughters got me wrapped around their finger, because I'm that kind of daddy, But at the same time, I am so protective. I don't want my daughters to be the statistical, person who is that girl who gets pregnant out of wedlock, the girl who can't go to college, who can't fulfill her dreams, who has to rely on a man to do everything for her because she forfeited her opportunities and stuff. I want her to be able to be that person who has every opportunity to be the best woman that she could possibly be. A good wife, a good woman of God, a good mother. I want her to be the best that she can be. And it's very challenging when that daughter says, Papa, step back. I can handle this on my own. And you're looking at it and you're saying, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Got a little discombobulated, didn't you?
Yes, and my wife, she is just the same way, loving, kind, beautiful, all of that kind of stuff, and tries to be as close as possible. But it's hard to see your child transition if you feel that they're transitioning in the wrong directions.
Right. Well, one of the things I think for me too with my daughters that and I will say I think my ex-husband and I equally poured into them is really having a strong sense of their identity and their confidence, because it's in the brokenness, I think, that we make these horrible decisions when we're unsure of ourselves, when we don't have that strong foundation of self-awareness. I think that is where typically, and one of my professors in undergrad school said something that stayed with me, and to this day I remember it. He said, it's not where you fall that matters, it's where you tripped. Yeah. And a lot of times we have to go back at our life and look at where those broken fragments were, and what happened in that moment. What did it strip from me? And with me, I know that my abusive relationship stripped me of all my self-confidence. My self-esteem. I didn't feel good about myself anymore. I completely relied on him for my identity, for everything. And when you're coming out of an abusive relationship and you're rebuilding and you start to raise these beautiful daughters, like I said, it was reflective for me. I remember what it felt like to be that open, empty shell of a person that didn't know who I was, walking around trying to figure my life out. So I try to make sure that if nothing else, I instill their greatness and I affirm their greatness every day, that they don't need anybody but God. They even me, because I'm a perish one day, but God is constant. He's always here. He's going to be with you always, no matter what. And I want them to lean on that. I wasn't raised as a Christian, but my parents were good people. So that moral foundation was there. So when I met Christ, when I came to the Lord at 19 years of age, it was an easy transition for me because I felt that I was already a good person, but then I got to know God. And those raising my children on those principles was a game changer, because you see the world to a different point. And wow, it's the things you wake up to, you can't help it.
Right, yeah.
You can't help it.
Yeah.
See, and that was my thing. I was kind of sugarcoating that a little bit, because my protectiveness was more, put it this way, I lay hands on you and then I lay hands on you, meaning I lay hands and then pray. I wasn't afraid to go to jail. That's how how protective I was of my kids. I just, but yeah, once you come to Christ, and then, because then you're not only within yourself, but as far as, having that love towards them, and then also forgiving yourself and forgiving the one who, did the abuse as well, so it is life-changing coming to Christ. And that's what I hear, with you at 19 years old and, finding that. So that's awesome. That's wonderful.
And it also restored my identity in terms of who I was within God, and watching my daughters, and they're also, I have 4 of them. I'm saying it, and I know every parent says it, but I really mean it. I have like the 4 most amazing daughters on this planet. And when I look at them and they affirm me, it makes me even greater. Like I look at them and I say, God, you chose me. There was a billion women on this planet, and you chose to raise these amazing, brilliant young ladies. And it affirms something within me. So even if it was lost and I couldn't find my way back, God set it up so tough for me that I couldn't help but find my way back just by raising these amazing, brilliant women that I raised. So, you know what I mean? It pays forward.
They become your inspiration, basically.
Yeah, they do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Well, Diana, now we have heard your story. And, we're so glad that abuse didn't go any further, and that I'm sure you had difficulties and challenges like anybody else growing up, but I'm just glad to know that you made up in your mind that you were not going to be abused again, and that you would start paying attention to the red flags, and, that you would just be on top of it. And now, you gave us all of these titles and these positions and these accomplishments and all of these things that you have done, and you've written a book. Why don't you tell us about your? We want to hear about it. Christina Eve, she act like she said she wanted to hug you through the phone. So
I want to hug her too. Well, my book is called Everything Grows in the Valley, a story of redemption and learning to embrace life's adversities. And what it is, it's memoirs of my life that start from my earliest memories in childhood. I've been through a lot. Like people that read my book, the one of the most resounding comments I'm getting about the book from people that know me is someone that knows you but didn't know that would never know you had been through that. And I said, well, thank God I don't look like what I've been through. But I've been through a lot of experiences in my life, and I lost everything. I was doing very well in life. I had a preschool for 26 years, financially very, 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 very successciul. And lost.
Whoa, that's about 6 varies you just put on there.
Yeah,
6 varies.
Very successful.
I think I actually was losing my thought, I think is what happened right here. But and I lost everything, and trying to rebuild life. A divorce. It was pretty much a divorce. A lot of details in there that some I will disclose, some I won't. But I lost everything after my divorce. Everything.
Okay.
A few years.
Well, we understand
that.
We understand that.
Yeah. It wasn't right after. It was a few years after. It was a compilation of a whole bunch of events that just kind of.
All right.
It was terrible. So I ended up. It got to a point where I lost everything, and I moved to Atlanta with literally 32 cents in my pocket and no plan.
Wow.
And my daughter, my second oldest daughter, Latina, I went and lived with her. She nurtured me back into knowing who I was. All of my daughters did, even though those that my other 3 that weren't there, they did. They loved me through that, and there were messages the whole time. I started journaling when I was there, and where the title comes from, Everything Grows in the Valley, is I went on a cruise back in 2009, and I had never seen a real mountain before. And when you go on cruises, if you don't have a roommate, you have to pay double occupancy. So I went on a Tom Joyner cruise, and the young lady that I was in the cruise, we got to know each other before I got there. So she kind of, we were just talking about traveling and different things. And I explained to her I'd never seen a mountain before. So when we were going up the canal, porting into Victoria, British Columbia that morning. She's screaming on the balcony, Diana, you've got to see this. Get out here. So I go out and I see this mountain, and I'm literally sitting there like crying real tears because it was so incredibly beautiful. I'd never seen anything like it. But I just remember when I was looking at the mountain, I looked at the top, and it was cold. It was barren. There was like nothing up there. And then I looked in the valley, and it was beautiful. There was like birds and trees and rivers and streams, and I just remember the first thing I asked myself was, why does the mountaintop get all the glory? Because the beauty I saw in the mountain was in the base of that mountain. And it reminded me of our lives. A lot of times we're so busy trying to go through when God allows adversity in our life, he wants us to see something. There's something we're supposed to see. We're supposed to grow from it. And that is those valley experiences. We're so busy trying to get out of it and climb and get to the top that we don't take a time to look around us and take in everything that's happening to us while we're in that thing, because God is really doing some tremendous work with us. And what I started to see as I was journaling was in those darkest times in my life, what God was doing with me. And it scared me because what I realized was that is when he needed me to listen to him and draw closest to him, was when I felt most alone. And he wants that for us. He wants us. So those experiences are there to give us growth. So my book is about all these adversities that I faced in my life and how I sustained them and how God brought me through them, and how I don't want people to hurt. I want people to know that there's other people out here that have experienced these things with them and never to give up. I mean, look at my life. I mean, I'm not completely where I want to be yet, but I'm sure not where I was.
Wow. How
Amen.
long did it take you to write your book, Diana?
Well, okay, so it was a 5-year experience journey. Okay. But let me say this: it started off as journaling. It didn't really turn into a full book project until probably 2 years before I finished, but I was in graduate school studying for my master's degree. So I really didn't start dibbling in it until after I finished my master's is when I started to get real serious. But I work for Child Protective Services, and there are days where I work 16, 18 hours, and I didn't have time to pour myself into the book like I wanted. So it was a 5-year project, but I don't think I really immersed myself into it until that last year.
Uh-huh. What is your master's degree in?
Administrative Leadership, Adult Continuing Education.
Okay. And you said you had a preschool for 23 years.
26, yes. Mm-hmm.
26 years.
Appleton Angels Christian Preschool.
Say the name again.
Appleton Angels Christian Preschool.
I like that.
Appleton Angels.
Christian preschool.
Wow.
I like that.
Okay. And so you had a preschool, and are you doing any kind of business right now? Apparently the preschool, you passed that on or closed or something.
Yes, my oldest daughter, Latoya, she has a in-home daycare that she will be expanding soon called Higher Learning Christian Academy, and she is doing a brilliant job. She has a summer. I'm so proud of her. She's doing an amazing job with the children. My other children, my second oldest she owns her own company. She does graphic design and videography. And then my second youngest is in her PhD. Well, she's getting ready to do a qualification exam for a PhD program at UTMB. And my youngest is a model. So they're all just doing great things in their lives.
That's incredible. I love it.
Yeah. I'm very proud. I'm a proud mama.
Wow.
And I have to interject here too. I mean, I'm rewinding back when you when you're talking about losing everything, talking about being in that valley. It reminded me of the Bible where they were in the wilderness and all they did was complain versus looking at the blessings, looking at what they've like when you were talking about liberation, when you made that choice to get, Yeah, so I just wanted the listeners, I wanted to point that out real quick and highlight that, because regardless of where you are at, even at the beginning of the show, when I call him Doc, when Doc was asking me, hey, how's your family doing? Just whenever we're in that low place, it's better to look up. It's better to, just to have an attitude of gratitude. And, God just turned everything around. And not only that, but I mean, if you look, you're a prime example of that Romans 8:28, where he turns all things around for good. So I just commend you, because even in your 5-year process of writing a book, there you are working for the, 12, 16-hour shifts for the Child Protective Services, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you had your 4, being a single mom, you had the 4. I mean, that is just amazing. I commend you for, persevering, for everything. And that's what I love about this show, because we celebrate you.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
I love
great. And,
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
And Diana, I'll say this. One of the things that's important about our whole concept of celebrating is that we want people to be encouraged who may be going through what you went through back when you were 15, 16, the years that you had to raise your kids, single parent, all that stuff. We want to encourage people to know that if Diana Patterson can make it, they can make it.
Yes.
I want you to share some what you would call maybe some tidbits, some tips that that person who is going through, who needs to get out of that relationship, can't see themselves out of it. What are some of the things that you could say that could be encouraging or at least give some guidance to? What would you say to that person?
I'm going to say this first. Love yourself. Don't ever love someone more than you love yourself. And some people won't agree with this next statement, but I mean this even about our children. I have a chapter in my book called Oxygen Mask, and it's about the importance of caring for yourself. When we care for ourselves, we give the best version of ourselves to others. When we love ourselves, truly love ourselves, we expect the best for ourselves. So first, find your way back to that. But let me say this: you've got to dig deep in there and build that relationship with God. There's so much in God's word. Let me tell you about the affirmations in God's word that will pull you and propel you out of situations that you thought you could never get out of, that no counselor, no program, no anything could do with the word of God. When you get that thing implanted in you so deep till you know that you're affirmed in it, you can stand in it. I think that's important. And secondly, don't be afraid to reach out for help, because a lot of times when women are in abusive relationships, they're ashamed. They're shamed into telling their truth. They don't want people to know because there's criticism. And as a society, we have to stop judging these women. We don't know what their walk is. We didn't walk their shoes. We don't know what it is that happened to them that makes them codependent on that relationship. But we have to love up on them, and we have to do it without judgment and criticism, because that's where a lot of us fall off.
Good.
We have helped them. We help them, but we're going to help you under our terms. No, we need to help them under their terms. Whatever way they need to get out, we just need to support them and help them get out. Secondly,
amen.
Another thing I want to say from CPS, and I want to give this as a warning because a lot of people don't know this. I work for Child Protective Services, and a lot of parents do not realize that CPS will take your children if you fight in front of them. We
That's
can.
Good.
Now, we don't always. We usually try to set up a plan where we get those kids in a protective environment and we work on mom and dad and get them some counseling or whatever. But when you fight in front of your children, you're placing them at risk of harm and sometimes even worse. I mean, we've had child deaths because of that domestic violence. It is dangerous. So one of the things I think the women are so consumed with what's happening to them that they don't take a moment to look outside themselves and see the impact it's having on the children. So sometimes just pay attention to what's going on in your home, because sometimes you're so numb, you're numbing, that you're not feeling what's going on in the room. You're just in the room. But you got to be so present that you see the implications it has on the entire family, and the impact it has on the children. So I would say that. Now, I'd also say this: find somebody you trust and implement a plan of action, because I think a lot of women do want to get out. They just don't know how to.
Exactly.
So start talking to somebody about an exit strategy, because sometimes it's finances. There's so many. There's no one formula for that question. But I think when you sit down and be strategic about what you need to do, I think that helps. And know that it doesn't have to be something that happens in one day, and it doesn't have to happen overnight. But just get a plan. Set a plan. Ask yourself what you want for yourself, and ask yourself. I started off with this question: what do I want my life to look like? And everything that I wanted my life to look like at that time was nothing like it was.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think it starts there, because then you got to start believing that picture that you want your life to look like, you can actually have it. It's within
That's
you,
beautiful.
and it's in you. Yeah, and I think that's what it is. Just believing in yourself again. And you know what? As easy as that sounds, when someone has beaten you down to nothing, even that can be difficult. Even thinking outside of the relationship to want for yourself can be hard, and we do understand. But just find somebody to trust.
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you say, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, what do you say to the woman who feels like, that there's no other man for them? They're scared to leave the relationship because they're going to be alone. They're not going to have anybody.
Yes, but he's going to change.
Yeah.
Or he's going to change, or he's going to change with the next one, and I don't want him to change for the next one. I want him to change for me. That's a big one. But this is what I'm going to say about that. What you have to do is reach within yourself and say that you deserve better. You've got to have a filter. You've got to say to yourself what you deserve, and you've got to be willing to be alone. The best gift I gave myself, and I brag about it. When I left my ex-husband, I was alone for a long time. I used that time to rediscover myself as a woman. We've got to stop being so afraid to be alone. There is no, and let me say, society has a lot to do with that. We shame women that are single. There's nothing wrong with being single. If you're confident about who you are, you got to fall in love with yourself again, so that when God does bring that thing, because he will at some point, he going to bring them. But you need to be ready for it. We can't want a prince when all we're giving him is a frog.
But, that's easier said than done, because
it is.
When you are facing loneliness, when you are facing, of course, the hormones are raging, when you're dealing with everybody around you is married but you, and all of that kind of stuff. Or if they're not married, they have somebody. That's in other words,
it's hard. It's hard.
So
I've been single for years.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm still single. I've been single for a long time, and it is, and especially during the special days, the Valentine's Day, is something about the summer, because you see everybody doing it together. Believe me, I've cried to my children, but you know what? I always revert back to, it still feels better to be alone than to be in an abusive relationship or with a man that cheats and doesn't respect me. When I weigh out the pain of being by myself is so much less, and guess what? It's temporary. Because when I cry because I'm lonely, I cry every day. When you cry when you're in a bad relationship, you cry every day.
All right. That's good. Wow. That's some good stuff.
Yes.
We've got one more minute. Go ahead one more time. How do people get your book?
Okay, well, it is available on Amazon, but I like my readers to buy my book from me personally. So I have set up 2 accounts. I have a PayPal account, which is paypal.me/D as in Diana, N as in Nancy, P as in Patterson, EGV as in Everything Grows Valley. So it's paypal.me/EGV, and you can also pay me by Cash App at $DNPEGV. And you'll get an autographed copy and a bookmark if you buy it directly from me. But if not, it is available on Amazon, so you can buy it either way.
And what's your email?
My email is dnplifeconsulting@gmail.com.
Okay,
And that's Diana Anita Patterson. DNP, Diana Anita Patterson, lifeconsulting@gmail.com.
Excellent.
And I'm also on Facebook. Yeah.
You're on Facebook too, right?
Yes.
Well, look, we're out of time. You have been a welcomed voice on Crisis.
Yes.
On Crisis Radio.
I enjoyed you too so
Such
much.
an inspiration.
I'm gonna have to cook y'all some greens.
Yes.
Oh, she's talking about food now. That's a whole other show. I'm loving it. I'll start stalking you. Don't talk to me about soul food or greens or. Woo.
Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you so much for being on Crises. And you should let us know if you got conferences or anything coming up that we can advertise on Elation Radio. They are an excellent source of getting the word out to people all over the country and beyond. All right?
I will. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless you. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in to Crisis Radio. Miss Christina, we're going to have to say goodbye.
All right. Till next time. And like you always say.
Like I always say, agape always.
Always.
Take care.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Stranded, lost, just caught in a daze, branded, an outcast, life has thrown you away, broken, defeated, you can't seem to win, so you cry out, holy, because you need a friend, stop crying, he'll be there through the night. Stop denying, he's able to change your life. No more hurting, joy comes in the light. I can see you breaking and praying that something will go right. Call on him and he'll set you free. Alpha, Omega, you're my beginning and my end. Father, my Savior, you're a healer and a friend. Master Jehovah, my life is in your hands. I am free. Confused, distracted, no focus to your calling. Your feelings useless, depression has you falling. You're praying, fasting, believing in a chance. So you cry out, holy, you need deliverance. Stop crying, he'll be there through the night. Stop denying, he's able to change your life. No more hurting, joy comes in the light. I can see you breaking and praying that something will go right. Just call on him, 'cause he'll set you free. Alpha, Omega, you're my beginning and my end. Father, my Savior, you're a healer and a friend. Master Jehovah, you see my life is in your hands. I am free. Alpha, Omega, you're my beginning and my end. Father, my Savior, you're a healer and a friend. Master Jehovah, my life is in your hands. I am
say free. Free. I am free. Nobody's holding me. Yeah. I made it through my storm, and I can see the finish line. He kept me through. My Redeemer set me free. Said no more chains, no more chains. Said no more chains, no more chains. Said no more chains, no more chains. Said I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. No more chains, no more chains. Whoa, no more chains, no more chains. Whoa, no more chains, no more chains. Said I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. No more chains, no more chains. There are no more chains, no more chains. I see no more chains, no more chains. It looks like I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. No more chains, no more chains, no more chains, no more chains. There are no more chains, no more chains. That I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. No more chains, no more chains, no more chains, no more chains. When I look through my life, no more chains. I see that I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. No more chains are gone, no more chains are gone away. No more chains. That I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. Hallelujah. I'm so glad I'm free.